Yesterday class, just I explained the basic requirements and the apps which is needed. Today we'll see the Objective-C language basics. I hope I explained yesterday to go through C language. So come to this, coming to Objective-C. The Objective-C is a language which Apple is developed on top of the C language. If you see, the Objective-C is developed by NextStep. NextStep. In simple terms, we can say C plus object-oriented procedures is equal to Objective-C. Okay. The C language is structure-oriented language. The Objective-C is message-oriented. We can say it's a partially object-oriented. It's not a fully object-oriented language. The Objective-C is having its own keywords and it uses the C keywords and other C methods and other same features. It adds object-related information for C language. The Objective-C language will be used to develop the applications for either iOS or macOS. We can do the app development for iOS and macOS. So we'll go with the today's session. An Objective-C, as I said, it is a combination of C and object-oriented procedures. We'll see today is object-oriented procedure concepts. Object-oriented procedures are common features for any object-oriented programming language, like either in Java or in different there are other object-oriented languages. Similarly, the same concepts is supported by the Objective-C. Here, if we say any object-oriented procedure language, it contains the basic features like classes and objects, data abstraction, data encapsulation, reusability with inheritance, and polymorphism message passing. That the basic is inheritance, polymorphism, class and object communication, and message passing. So these are the main concepts of an object-oriented procedures. We'll start with classes. If it is C language, we define one class. In C language, we define one file with .c. So we'll write a main method, and inside of the main method, we code all the things what we require. By passing information from method to method, we can execute some certain results. Whereas in Objective-C, they divided the C file into two files. In C, we can define a data members. It's like variables and methods in the same file. In C language, declarations and implementations will be done in a single file that is saved with .c extension. When coming to this Objective-C, this single .c file has been divided into two parts. One file is for declaration and one file is for implementation. The declaration file contains only declarations. For example, if you want to declare any data types, The declaration you have to do in one file. If you would like to give some assignment, if you want to assign some values to those data members, that needs to be taken in implementation file. So this is completely divided into two files in Objective-C. One is declaration, one is implementation. The combination of these two files will call it like a class in Objective-C. Let's see what we call in terminal wise, like in a keywords like terminology wise, we'll say class is the blueprint for any of entity. If you think about some design specific, or if you think about an idea, before idea is coming to this reality, we'll make one blue diagram. So it's like one kind of diagram or designing procedure that will die with classes. So how the structures or unions has created in C language, the similar passion, the classes will be created in Objective-C. So classes is combination of a data members and methods. If you look at your C language structures, the structure is defined in the combination of variables, and structure is in C is a combination of variables that will be defined. But here, if you consider the class, I said a manufacturer wants to make one vehicle manufacturing. So in such scenarios, his idea is to create a new vehicle. So before he go for development, he would like to have one plan. So that plan, before he making a plan, he will have some ideas in his mind. He will collect all the information which is required. One is with what he required. If he would like to make any of a vehicle, what can be the color, and there are the basic requirements he will list out. And if once that is done, he will make some certain actions. What are the actions are required for the particular act, for particular idea. So by structurizing these two parts, he will do one analysis. This structurization kind of a blueprint will call it like a class. Here in terms we can say all these properties are defined, and there are certain methods or actions are defined. We say speed is one action and control is one action. These are like different properties. So the classes is a combination of, in technology wise we can say the classes are combination of data members and member functions. These actions will call it like a functions. This will call it like a data members. How we can define a class in Objective-C? In Objective-C, as I said earlier, is a combination of two files. One is .h and .m file. .h file contains only data members and member function declarations, and .m file contains implementation for those data members and member functions. So every programming language follows its own syntax, which understand by its compilers and interpreters. So similarly, the Objective is also having the same thing. So here, let's see how to declare a class. So in Objective is having its own keywords, like @interface is the one keyword we'll use to define a class. Here, if you look at here, so @interface is the keyword. If you see in a C language, we can see main is one of the method, is existing method. We see int and float, like there are certain keywords. In Objective-C also there are certain directives. At the rate, if there is a keyword is followed by the symbol, so we can call this as like a directive. So interface is the directive we use to define any class or declare a class. You can give your class name, whatever the name you want. These naming conventions are similar to your variable declarations and variable naming conventions which defined in C language. But it's a general procedure. The class name, the first character should start with a capital letter. It's not mandatory, but if it starts with a capital letter, it is like one good procedure. So colon is a syntactical notation, and here we'll write one super class name. So this is your current class name. Here you have to give the super class name. So at the rate interface, and you have to open the open and close braces, and in between that you can define any data variables. You can define a variables, or you can declare a variables or objects inside of this interface. Once the interface block is closed, we can create or declare any methods. The method declarations happen in this area, and use at the rate and directive for closing a declaration of one .h file. This is class declaration. This is one file .h file. So if let's see how the bike.h file is defined. Bike.h, this is at the rate interface is my directive, bike is my class name, followed with ns object is my super class name, colon is the syntactical notation. Open a block and create the data types which you required. And I created two variables, and there are three methods which I created, and at the rate n. This will be looks like the top is like syntax. The syntax should look like this. By following the syntax, we created one class. Later we'll discuss about what is the difference of our method declarations in C and Objective-C. This is Objective-C method declarations. The syntax wise is a bit different. I will tell you that later. If you go for bike.m, this is another file. So this is implementation for this bike.h. So use directive at the rate implementation followed with your class name. Just return your class name. Whatever the methods is declared in .h file, that will be implemented here. And what are the variables are declared in .h file, those variables will be initialized in .m file. And end the .m file with at the rate m, so that the compiler can understand this implementation file implementation is ended. The end will give you the exact location for your compilers, so that they can understand the syntax is ended, either for the class declarations or for the implementations. So this is a class declaration in Objective-C. If you see in C language, we do these implementations and declarations only in a method of main method or within a .c file. Let's see by creating one sample demo class. Yesterday we created one demo class. We'll go with it. Let's create one class. Go to file, click new, select file. You will see the iOS, go to iOS, select source, and then go for Cocoa Touch class. All the classes in Objective-C, the super class is NS object. Here NS means next step, which is developed the Objective-C, Let's say bike. Here choose language. Now we are developing the iOS application with Objective-C. Our selection should be Objective-C. Then added the file. Now you can see. When I create one class, I got two files. As I said, one.h, one.m. So this is your super files, super class, or these are library packages you needs to import. Import in the sense you are linking to this file, we are giving some certain classes access to this file. So these are the by default or existing frameworks of the iOS. So this is at the rate interface is the directive which tells that we are creating one class. This is the class name we created, followed with colon and ends with ns object. This is my super class. All classes in Objective-C are the subclasses for ns object. Indirectly, we say NS object is the superclass for all classes in Objective-C. I want to declare some variables. I want to declare some variables. Let's see, I'm declaring bike color or something, you can say number of brakes, or you can say color, float, weight. There are certain methods you can do. There is a difference in C language to Objective-C of method declarations. If you see a C language method declaration, you'll write the return type, method name, open, data type, arg name. Like this you can do. So this is your C language declarations. In Objective-C, void sum int a int b. This is your C language declaration. And coming to this Objective-C, first option is for sign. The second is return type. This is the syntax. Just I am explaining the syntax for method. Method name, colon, data type, arg name. This is argument data type. It can be class name or it can be any data type. Anything. You can write something. Additional parameters. These are the basic declaration syntax in Objective-C. If you write, the sign can be plus or minus. Here sign, the sense, sign is either plus or minus. Minus void is written my return type. I am saying that speed int let's say this is the way you can declare a method. If you see Objective-C and C method difference, sign, this return type is closed with brackets, method name has been written same, this is followed with colon, this we divided, like we close the bracket at here, this is argument name. If you want to give one more argument, we'll extend the method name. You can give anything. The method name is user defined. Now we are creating user defined method. Like I can extend the method. So if it is two arguments, the method is speed with brakes. This is my whole method. It's having two arguments. Two integer arguments it is having. So something like this, we can define the same method in Objective-C. Let's say void initialize values. This is my method with no arguments. I have two functions. Copy these two methods, paste here and implement. There are three properties or data members. You can say the number of weights are 1 or say so 2. You can give some color black, white. This can be your initialization. So in .h we declare declarations, in .m we give an implementation. This is my class declaration. If you look at this bike.h, bike.m, I want to use the bike.h in bike.m file. So I should follow the import keyword. How you include a files in C language, here you can import a files in Objective-C. Its internal implementation is different from import to include. Include works compiles all the files in that specific header, but import will use only specific files and specific classes. This bike.h is available in bike.m by importing this bike.h. At the rate implementation is my directive class name. At the rate end is identical to say the compiler. Implementation is ended. Implementation is ended. So this is a way you can create a class. Now I can create a methods in two styles. As I said, there is a plus or minus sign. I want to create one. All minus indicated methods are object methods or instance methods.
What is a plus methods?
All plus methods are class level methods. If you say class level, if you take any example related to some college or university, the university properties are class level properties, global for all. The self properties are related to individual object. If each person is an object, whatever he wear, that is individual. Whatever we use public transport, that is global properties, that are class level.
Uh,
Here,
I cannot hear properly.
here the
From
class
your side, I got some disturbance.
class methods are related to global for the class, specific class. If you take the bike is like a class, we can create a different models. The each model is different, but the basic parts are common. So that we can call it like all common features are related to class level. Yeah, the same way I said, if it is some university, You can use direct C language methods in Objective-C. If you run any project, the main method is the first method will get initialized, will be called. If you run the application, you can see the first breakpoint will come for main method. This is the initial method. So we can see the status running application name demo1. So this is the beginning point of your application. Now I want to create a class. I imported here. I would like to use the here the way of calling methods in Objective-C. I said there is a class method. It's like a description or describe. This is our user defined method. This is class method. So all classes methods will be called with class name. In Objective-C, the method calling a method is different syntax. The method invocation should start with open braces and will be closed with closed braces. So in between you can specify either object name or class name followed with the method name followed by method name. This is the way of syntax for calling a method.
Bro,
Yes.
yeah, I have one doubt. Why you not give the only one name like class name, or you are giving the both object names and class
It's
names?
object or class name. Either you can use object or class name. This is like syntax. Either you can say either here you can give object name or class name followed by method name. So describe is a class name, so I'm using class name bike. Describe is class level method. So based on the sign which you given for a method, this is the method is declared as a class method because the sign is plus. All class methods will be executed with the class name. If you come for objects, so this is the way of classes declaration and invoking a one method in Objective-C. If it is class method, how to call a class method? The way of you can see describing the bike is the printf statement which has written in describe method. So we call this method, we got the output. This is the way of calling class methods in Objective-C and declaring a class methods and declaring a object methods. In order to execute object methods, we have to create an object. So let's see what is object and how to create an object in Objective-C. As I said, methods is a collection of statements. This method is equal to function in C language. If you look at C language of functions, you will get an idea of methods in Objective-C. In C language, there are static methods and normal methods. In here, in Objective-C, we have a class method and object methods. Let's come to object. Why we need object? Class is a design pattern. So whereas object is a real-time entity. Real-time in the sense, if the bike is your design, whatever the product you deliver, that product is called as object. So I declared and defined one class. Now I want to give some values. This is my class. This class is having all the structure. There is no values or there is no object is created for this class. Let's say this is my method. If you see class, only class level method is having some description or some statements. The rest of the methods, whatever I define, it takes some inputs from the object. It will create the initialization. The initial values for a bike. Let's see. Let's create a one object for bike. You will take hero bike new. This is the way of object creation. Object creation in the sense will create a memory in your like in your OS level. You will create a memory for an object in your memory structure, and that will be referred for other calculations. Here if you say you are creating an object, so for this object you have to create a memory. If it is in C language, if you would like to create a memory location, you have to use malloc and calloc and realloc memory allocation methods. But Objective C use these methods internally with the help of these external methods. You can call new method. This is method will create some memory allocation and initialize some default values to the properties which are defined in this bike class. If you go for bike class, we have three properties. These three properties will be allocated with its, the integer will take 2 bytes of memory, char will take like 1 byte of memory, and float will take like 4 bytes of memory. The overall the memory allocation will be taken from your memory and will create one memory address. That address will be represented with this specific name hero. So this is object creation. The objects will be created by calling a method new. Now I want to initialize a hero bike with initialize values. Initialize values, let's say there is some brakes and white 0.0. Now if I want another object, I can create a other object. This is my another object. This object is a real entity which we can see with different values. It's have its own implementation. If you see these objects is having different values, it depends on, it's independent to object. The method describe is having certain statements. Those are common for this class. So I said the method is a describe method is defined as a class level, so the statements which defined in this method are common for the class and can be accessed with only class name. So these methods are object methods. So I created an object and I written an object name followed with the method name by passing the arguments. Now if you go for this execution, first I call this describe method. Now I am coming to, this is a breakpoint. As I said yesterday, if you click right side, the breakpoint will enable. This is step in. You can go for the next statement. You see the number of breaks which I passed the values is 2 and color is white and weight. If I see this object here, you can, this is like your debugging area. Self always represents a current class object. Here number of breaks are 2, weight is something and color is something. You can see the values. These all the values are related to one object. The object is this one. If you open this, you can able to see what the values is having. You can see the 2 color is white and weight is something. Now I am creating another object and I have given some certain values. And if you look at these two, this is one object is having certain memory address and allocated certain memory, and these are the properties, and the values are different from object to object. This way you can create a objects for class in Objective-C. To create an object memory, we'll use new method, or we can use another method, either new or alloc init. These two methods are not declared in bike.h file, but still we are using those methods. Means we got these new and alloc methods from ns object class, because ns object is a super class and it's a parent class for the bike class. Those properties are defined in parent class, so the child is able to access those. So this is the way the creation of objects and classes. The difference for a class method and instance method, the object methods can be accessed from the one object method can be accessed from another object method. For example, these are my instance methods. If I want to call one method from another method, I can able to call it. So the self is a keyword which always represents the current object which is calling this method, and I want to call some speed. So I can say something. So I'm passing some values. I'm calling message. I'm sending a message from one method to another method within the same class. If you want to call a method from one method to another method, object methods, we'll use self is a keyword to represent and to refer a method object which is calling this method. In case if we want to see so this is my bike. Let's open this main file. Now here I declared one object hero. So when this hero object is calling this method, the self represents this memory location. If the pulsar object is calling this method, then self represents this this object reference. So whichever the object is calling this method, that memory location will be referred with self keyword, because here we cannot give any name which is calling this object. So we use the keyword. So whenever this compiler is executing this method, it will go for it's like a inner method calling, method to method calling in object to C. You can call an instance method from another instance method, but we cannot call this instance method from class method. This is my class method. If I want to call this class method, we got an error, because the class never knows whether object method is defined or not, because we can call the class methods with class name. It is an optional to create an object or not. It may be created, it may not be created. So as I said, NS object is the superclass for all the classes. What is the syntax for creating a object? And we can see that there is one object I created. You can see in the demo how we created an object. And we have seen the difference of methods and method declarations from C language to Objective C, how to create a method with arguments, how to call a method by passing values, how to create a method without having arguments in Objective C. And we can see the syntactical difference from C to Objective C. Let's go for scope of the next topic, scope of the variables. The scope is the major area where we have to concentrate. Here there are two files. One is .h file, one is .m file. If there are any data variables or data members are defined in .h file, these data members can be directly accessed in any method. These data members are global for this class that can be accessed throughout this .m file, anywhere in any method. So this number of breaks is defined in .h file, so that I can use it here as well. If I want to access this method variable in this method, I can access, because it is declared in .h. If I want to declare some variables local, int, this is the local variable. This is local variable. This is the variable. This variable is local to this method. We cannot access this variable from other methods. If I declare it here, if I want to access, then we cannot access. We are getting an error, because this variable is not global scope. This is local scope. This is declared at here. This can be used after the statements. We cannot use this one top of the statement. This statement is, this variable is available after this statement. So your compiler and interpreter will go by, step by step, because this Xcode internally uses CLang is one of the tool which converts and understand your Objective-C and C language syntaxes. And later it converts and it compiles the code and it gives to LLVM, that is one of the virtual machine which runs your applications for the different operating systems. So this is the variable. This variable is local to this method. We can use inside of this method. So these are the variables .h file, whatever you define, these variables are global to entire class. So that is the basic difference. Global variables and local variables. If there are the variables which are defined in the method, that is local. If the variables which are defined in .h, those are global. Let's come to how can we access a variables from one class to another class or from one object to another class. Let's see. Here I have one class bike.h. This is one file. I want to access the methods from this class, so I created so I able to access. Now I have variables as well. So if you want to access any variable in Objective C, we use object by followed with either dot or arrow. They are the two things in Objective C. Either you can use dot or you can use arrow. This is syntax. This is your object name followed by dot or arrow, variable or object which is defined in that class. This I can simply call data member. If you want to assign some value, you can assign. If you want to read, you can use this. This is the way. Let's say hero is my object. I want to access one variable from this .h because the .h is having different variables. I want to give some value to this weight property. So I can use this weight here. I can do the something. If you do something like this, here we are getting one warning or error. This error is written because the scope of the variable is only for the class. You can use these variables inside of this .m file, but you cannot access these variables out of this file. The main.m is a different file, the bike is a different file. If you want to use those data members of a bike in other classes, there is a different concept involved. That concept is called access specifiers. You can give a access. The way of access is provided with access specifiers. If you say by default all the data members which are defined in one class are related to one scope, that is protected scope. Now I want to make these variables are available, can be accessed from outside of its class by making it public. I can declare one directive @public. So now these data members can be accessed here with a, I said either dot or arrow. Now we can use arrow. Now if you see, you can able to write one value to the memory location weight. So if you want to access one variable from outside of its class with object, then the variable either belongs to public scope or it will be in different approach. I will tell you that what can be other approaches. This is one kind of data access. You can specify the data members are public. All public data can be accessed in anywhere in the application because there is the behavior of a public directive. If I won't specify, then those data is related to protected. Now I am making this protected. Now these variables are protected. I cannot access. Now we can see that I got one error. If it is, I used weight outside, so I will keep this weight as a public. Now I can access the weight as a public because this is under public. These are under protected. I can make some properties as a private. So now I divided the class into data members in different axes. This variable can be accessed public. This variable is available is in protected. Protected means if this class is relation with any other classes, those related classes can access this protected data. This is color is a data variable This is private. The private data you cannot access anywhere, either within relation or as a public or anywhere you cannot use. You cannot access. These color private data members only be utilized within the class. If it is declared in .h, that will be used only in .m. You cannot access from outside because the access specification is private. So there is a another access specifier, that is package. Package is related to one group. This project can have the entire project, we call it as like a one package. So this variable can be accessed throughout this package. For example, if I use this whole project from another project, then this variable is like a package level. This variable is available within this package at anywhere, but this data is only be available outside. Let's say how it works. As I said, here the concept comes inheritance. Now we have seen how to create a class, how to create an object, how to create a method, how to call a method, how to pass a arguments, that we have seen, and how to access a data members. Before going the more details about data access, let's see one objective C feature, that is called inheritance. So inheritance means its a measure is reusability. If there is a one class, let's take a general example is a parent child inheritance. If parent is having some feature that comes to child, here we have a inheritance feature. NS object is a parent class. We can call this as a parent or superclass for the bike. Then the bike will become a child or subclass. So this NS object is having some certain methods and data members. Those methods and data members, if there are any protected or public or package, any of these three related information can be accessed within bike. With the help, the bike can access any public, protected or package data from NS object, but it cannot access private data of NS object. So now NS object is, the bike is inherited the NS object. And if you create another class, that is a secondary, let's say we have two classes. If these two classes are in one relation, so we can say this is one group, so it is fine. So similarly, I created another group. I created another class. For example, this is house or apartments, like house. I created an house. The superclass is another object. My class is house. It's having its own properties. This is one relation. These two are irrelevant. This group is different. This group is different. Now, if there is any methods, or all methods can be accessed. Is there any data members are public, are protected, or package can be accessed by the bike? If there are any public data within this group, can be accessed inside of these groups. By creating the object for the bike class, you can able to access the public data inside of it. If it is there is some protected data, these protected data cannot be accessed from here. This group cannot access the protected data of this group, because this is different group and this is a different group. These two classes are in one relation. These two classes are in one relation. This is one single inheritance. If I inherit another class from this one, then now we can say this is one inheritance, this is one inheritance. There are two level of inheritance. We call it as like a multi-level inheritance. So that I will explain you later. But for a glance, this is one group and this is one group. If you see any charting application, one group message cannot be shared to another group. So there is a level of access. Similarly, we can restrict those level with the help of these access specifiers: package, private, and public. The public data is open for all. The private data is only to the class level. If this is my project, whole project, for example, the bank, you can see here the background. If this is my whole project, I can say, for example, this is one project or this is one project. These two are defined in another project. Then if there is any data is public, those data is available but can be accessed. The other related data can't be accessed. One project can have a classes in related classes and non-related classes. Now the bike is one class. I would like to create another class. Let's create an inheritance for the subclass for bike. So vehicle, we can say I said it's a vehicle. Now you can use this vehicle here, import it. Now vehicle is my superclass. This is one level of inheritance. There are two classes. Vehicle is one class, NS object is one class. These two are in one relation. Now the bike is also related to vehicle. So these two classes are in one relation. So but these classes are not related to this. If there is any public data in this class, that can be directly accessed from other classes. Now if you see, there is a protected data, in the sense, if there is some protected data, if I define int vehicle name, if I have not defined any directive, this access comes under protected. Now since this class is subclass for it, so I can yes, I can define the vehicle name. Now I was here, we are able to access this variable because this variable is a protected level and this vehicle is a superclass for the bike. Means these two are in one relation. In general terms, we can say that if there is a relation group, so there are some certain properties and information can be shared. So now this vehicle class is able to share some information related to vehicle name to the bike. These are non-related classes to this group. So these only public data can be accessed. So I declared one object for this. I was successfully able to access the public data, but here I cannot access any protected or private information, but I can access the package information as well. If I want to access some package information, weight is a package, sorry, height is the package information. You can say now you can say this I can access because this height is defined as a package data. So these all are in the same project, so I can able to access. Public data can be accessed. Protected data outside we cannot access, but protected data of one class can be accessed in its subclasses. So this is a access specifiers. You might be clear with what is private and what is protected and what is public. Here private data we cannot access. Even if hero is object of bike, but we cannot access the private data. If we say we have a private information with a name, color. If I want to access the color property, now here it won't allows us. So it is giving an error, you cannot access. This is about today's session. The today's session we have seen the creation of classes, creating of objects, creating of methods, calling a method, and like a single inheritance, one class to one class inheritance, and multi-level inheritance. This is one level of inheritance. This is one parent, one sub. This is the vehicle is the parent class for bike, but this vehicle is already subclass for another object. There are two levels. This is one level and this is one level. So now these two classes is a, we can call it as like a multi-level inheritance. These two classes are in an inheritance. That name is called multi-level inheritance. So the inheritance is the one of the best feature where you can reuse the features. If there is some function or variable which is declared here, I can directly reuse. I no need to define a memory again. I can reuse that variable in another class. It's subclasses. So now bike is a subclass, vehicle is a superclass. Every current class object is referred with self. Similarly, if I want to refer a superclass object, we use the keyword super. The super is a keyword which refers your superclass object. Either I can call this as a vehicle directly, this property, or else I can use the superclass object representation. You can use the super keyword to get some methods from the superclass. If there is any method is defined in superclass, for example, void now I define here, this is one method it defined in superclass. Now I want to access this method, super manufacture details. Now here super indicates the superclass object. If you run this application, now you can able to see that. In output in a console, we can see the two things. So this is the hero object data and it's called manufacturer details, and again the pulsar detail and it's called manufacturer details from the superclass from subclass with the help of super keyword. This we have seen how to get reusing an information from one class to another class by using the superclass. Simple to do the superclass, class name, use the colon and put your superclass name. All the data members based on the access specifier permissions, the data can be shared between classes. I said it's a single level inheritance from one class to another class. The multi-level inheritance, more than one level of inheritance called as the multi-level inheritance. I told you what is public data, what is package data, what is protected data, what is private data. How can we access one private or protected and public data outside of its classes? We'll tell you something more related to this access specifiers data access tomorrow. Tomorrow we can today the session is done. Class by 8 p.m. EST. Either we can start from 8 p.m. EST to 10 p.m. EST. Okay, then we'll see the tomorrow class at 8 p.m. EST to 10 p.m. EST. Okay.